I would say on every single one of my videos in the comment section, or very nearly, I find at least one user, if not multiple users, requesting my opinion on NoFap. And so I'm happy to share my 2 cents on it for whatever that's worth. So we'll get into that right now. In terms of NoFap, the way I understand it, there's three main categories. You've got people who just don't want to look at porn anymore, people who want to stop fapping altogether but still continue to engage in sexual activity, and those who wish to go on what is called hard mode. Now, I've actually experimented with all of these, and so I'll be able to share my anecdotal evidence. Before that, let's go into as much data as I was able to pull up in what is admittedly a limited time span. I've managed to find a few interesting and fairly persuasive studies on the phenomenon. In terms of porn, let's start there because I think the data seem pretty conclusive. There's definitely very highly likely a negative causal effect of pornography on the brain. So I'm going to go ahead and read a brief excerpt from a 2014 study conducted at the Max Planck Institute for Human Brain Development in Berlin. Quote, gray matter volume of the brain was measured by voxel-based morphometry, and resting state functional connectivity was measured on 3T magnetic resonance imaging scans. We found a significant negative association between reported pornography hours per week and gray matter volume in the right caudate, as well as with functional activity during a sexual cue, reactivity paradigm in the left putamen. Functional connectivity of the right caudate to the left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex was negatively associated with hours of pornography consumption. The negative association of self-reported pornography consumption with the right striatum caudate and the left striatum putamen, activation during cue reactivity, and lower functional connectivity of the right caudate to the left dorsolateral prefrontal cortex could reflect change in neural plasticity as a consequence of intense stimulation of the reward system, together with a top-down modulation of prefrontal cortical areas. Alternatively, it could be a precondition that makes pornography consumption more rewarding, end quote. So obviously this is not what they think is the case, and I am inclined to agree. I think it's very likely that in street speak, because our brains get flooded with an unnatural amount of happy juice every time we watch porn, this will in turn desensitize our brains to normal amounts of stimuli and erode our brain's neural pathways. So the long and short of it is, if you stop watching porn, your brain will stop eroding, essentially. And if you, it is likely, but not ultimately conclusive, that if you stop watching porn, your brain may become once more robust and healthier. I think this was the general reason that people decided to begin NoFap, at least in terms of not watching porn anymore. But some people wanted to take it farther. They said, well, when we're talking about NoFap, why don't we stop jerking off altogether and see if we can retend our semen, what is, I guess, referred to in the East by the Chinese as Jing, which is one of the three Dantian treasures. And if we can retend our nutrient-dense semen, it will eventually get reabsorbed. I mean, it makes, like, armchair physiologists decide. Like, I'm being an armchair physiologist here, but to me, it sort of logically, intuitively makes sense that if we have a seminal vesicle that is producing nutrient-dense semen like a factory, eventually, if we don't ejaculate that semen, it should get reabsorbed as we continually produce semen, and the seminal vesicle becomes full up, as it were. And so, obviously, there's a caveat here, a rather strong caveat, and that's nocturnal emissions, what I think most people would refer to as wet dreams. When people have wet dreams, obviously this is the body's natural physiological response to having too much semen and needing to ejaculate some of it. And I guess it's sort of a self-regulatory mechanism as well to make sure the pipes are continually functioning, so to speak. So, as someone who has done hard mode before, I can tell you that preventing a wet dream is fucking impossible. But it is something that I think there are some benefits. I think that you don't, like a man doesn't necessarily ejaculate all of the semen through wet dreams, and some of it is likely reabsorbed in the bloodstream. There is a baffling dearth, just a lack of studies on this stuff. which is, to me, it's profoundly mind-boggling. And I think this is something that interests a lot of men, whether we're going to admit it in public or not. Um, but the only study that I'm currently aware of. So please, if you know of other studies, let me know in the comments section. I'm highly curious about this stuff. The only study that I know of is this Chinese study done some years back that showed abstinence from ejaculation over the period of a week boosted testosterone levels, sort of over that week continually to the maximum level of 46.7% increase at day 7, after which it receded quite dramatically, actually, to baseline levels. I'll include that study in the link below, or in the low bar. But that's pretty much the only study we've got to go off. Who knows how well that study was conducted, or like what the intentions of the bankrollers were. But again, to me, it's just highly strange that we haven't had more institutions want to bankroll more studies about, how much testosterone gets boosted over the period of months, for example. Maybe it's just because people don't want to engage in. You couldn't find enough people that wanted to engage in the study and actually retain semen for that long. So, as I said before, many Eastern practices involve the retention of what the Chinese call jing, and I have tried this a couple of times in my life. Mainly, I tried it because I was eager to get an edge over people who just naturally seemed, basically my competition. I was in a highly competitive, ruthlessly competitive job right out of college. I think some of the people around me were definitely just genetically superior to me, and so I was trying to gain whatever advantage I could. And I thought, well, I might as well try NoFap. Why not? So the longest stretch that I went was 80 days, which was it's 2 months and a fair amount of change. During that period, I experienced a plethora of changes. So I think a deep, commanding voice was the first thing. I mean, my voice became, when I would walk into a room, for example, it just was sort of fun and amusing. Once I got to day 70 or day 75, I just felt most complex things also became simpler. And I think solving problems, not only did I have a greater drive to solve them, but solving them became child's play by day 60, day 70. So to me, I reaped enormous benefits from this. It's the reason I'm making this video is because of how sure I am that this is a useful thing. I noticed that my interactions with women became easier. On day 73, I met a woman at a bar. She was unobtainably beautiful in my context prior to that point, I would say. A 10 out of 10, as it were. And she was hitting on me. She was pursuing me with gusto. And it was just it was amusing, I guess, because I was so detached and removed from it in an ego sense. I just looked at it as, she wants my jing. She doesn't, but that's fun, I wasn't like, oh, she doesn't care about me or anything emo like that. I just thought it was funny. So, if you want to feel like Zeus holding some desert eagles, try NoFap. Can't scientifically substantiate the phenomenon, but I think it's interesting, it's fun, it's worth a shot. So that's my 2 cents on NoFap. If you enjoyed the video, please like, comment, subscribe, and share. Thank you, gentlemen. Thank you for the topic request. The PayPal donations that went towards considering the topic. I want to make it clear that I'm not running this channel in terms of video commissions. Like if someone says, Coterie, do a video on how beating up children boost your testosterone. Like I will have the veto on certain things, I guess. But if you want to commission a video, go ahead and reach out by YouTube messaging first. I know I have the PayPal link up, but let's discuss it first. I don't want you to give me money and then me refuse to do a topic, if that makes sense. Just because I don't think the topic is in line with this mission, like the mission of this channel. So if you want to give me a donation, I would highly appreciate it, and I would consider it sort of a commission of a video. But please reach out to me beforehand and we can discuss it so you don't waste your money either. um, because in the end, I care most about frankly, the artistic license. I want to be able to maintain the choice at all times of what I will produce and control completely the quality of my content, because I care very much about establishing trust with you, the viewer. This is something that's very important to me, that you know that regardless of whether you enjoy my video or whether you agree, I am striving to produce content that is thought-provoking. So again, thank you very much for the donations I've been receiving. Thank you very much for the patrons on Patreon. That's something that I'm not sure my content is equal to the worth of, but because you've chosen to give me money out of your pocket, that money could have went anywhere, and the fact that it's going towards my videos drives me to try and produce content worthy of such. So thank you very much, gentlemen, for liking, commenting, subscribing, sharing, and I hope you all have a pleasant evening.